It's 9 o'clock. Quorum, please come to order. A quorum is present. All legal notices have been posted and this court is duly called. Can I get a motion to adjourn the court for the October term?
So moved. Second.
Been moved and second. Is there any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign of voting. Aye. Those who oppose, same sign. Chairs in the affirmative. A motion to open the court for the November term.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign of voting.
Aye. Aye.
Those who oppose, same sign. Chairs in the affirmative. Bailiff, will you please open the court?
All rise. The Dallas County Commissioner Court is now in session for the month of November 2016 term with Honorable Commissioner Price presiding. Please remain standing for invocation.
Guest today is going to be Dr. Janet Odom. Oh, there you are. Didn't see you there. I think good morning. Come forward. And I'll take it that you are probably the guest.
Dr. Daniel.
Dr. Teresa Daniel.
Okay, doctor.
And good morning, and how are you? This is Dr. Janet Bell Odom, and she's a native of San Antonio. She's one of 4 children whose parents raised them in Jacob's Chapel United Methodist Church. Dr. Odom is married to the delightful Reverend L.Z.D. Odom, Jr. They're the parents of 3 adult children and 2 wonderful grandsons. Dr. Odom has been an ordained elder in the North Texas Conference of the United Methodist Church for 20 years. Her work experience is as an adjunct professor of world religions at Brookhaven College, Dallas County Community College District, as a spiritual formation leader at Southern Methodist University, Perkins School of Theology, and as an assistant chaplain at Southern Methodist University. Dr. Odom's educational accomplishments include the Bachelor's of Arts degree in Sociology from the University of Houston in Houston, Texas, a Master's of Divinity degree, and a Doctor of Ministry degree from Southern Methodist University. In addition, Dr. Odom has been trained in pastoral care in the Clinical Pastoral Education Program at Children's Medical Center. Dr. Odom has served on the Board of Directors of the Bethlehem Center, the Board of Directors of the Baylor Hospital Ethics Committee, and Board of Directors for the North Texas affiliate Susan G. Komen. She's also served as chairman of the Multicultural Committee, Carrollton Farmers Branch School District. She served as a member of the Board of Directors of the National Black Methodists for Church Renewal, the chairman of the South Central Jurisdiction Black Methodists for Church Renewal, and president of the North Texas Conference United Methodist African American Clergy Fellowship. Dr. Odom is a member of the Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Chi Delta Omega Chapter, Plano, Texas, where she served as president. She's also a member of the Denton Amuis community, and with so much experience, we are just so delighted that you were here this morning to guide us in prayer.
Thank you. First, let me thank you for inviting me to be a part of this morning. It is a blessing, and with all the uncertainties of life, one thing that is for certain is that this is the day that the Lord has made, and let us rejoice and be glad in it. Let us take a moment and pray. Bow your heads, please. We thank you so very much, dear God, that you have allowed us to even be present in this beautiful day that was not promised to us. We thank you for your love and your grace that continues to lead and guide us. When we don't even know what to do, you're always there. We pray this morning that as we sit in this court, that your Holy Spirit will fall fresh upon each and every one of us. We thank you, God, that you love us so much that in the midst of all that you are there to be faithful and to continue to love us and to guide us. I pray this morning specifically for the commissioners of this court, to the county judge, Clay Jenkins, to Dr. Teresa Daniel, to my brother, John Wiley Price, to Mr. Mike Cantrell, Dr. Alba Garcia. God, you have placed these young leaders in places in this place today. I pray that you will lead and guide them, God, and that you will always let them know that your presence is with them. Lead them, Lord, and let them listen to your voice and do your work in the way that you would have them to do. Bless them today, God. Bless their personal lives. Bless their public lives. Bless the work that is before them. Put your hand on it, and Lord, lead and guide them. I ask that you will allow everyone that's in this court today to be about you and know that your presence is always with us. And I will always give you the praise, honor, and glory because it belongs to you and you only. And the people in this court and the people of God says, hallelujah, hallelujah, and amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Our first resolution this morning is from me. It's for our employees of the month. And I'll ask if they'll all please come forward, those of you who are here. And they include this month Joshua Smedick with Health and Human Services, Ronnie Williams, who shares a name with my father-in-law, and it's spelled the same way too, at the tax office, Hein Tran at the Information Technologies, Richard Sepulveda at the Public Works, Julian LaPierre at Criminal Justice, Patricia Elliott at the District Clerk, Anthony Williams at the Marshals and Security, and Sergeant Jesse Mancias at the Marshals and Securities. And good morning. And the resolution reads as follows. Whereas Dallas County employees are hardworking, dedicated, and play a vital role in achieving the goals and objectives set forth each year by the Commissioners Court. Most employees perform above expectations and ensure that Dallas County continues to be a regional leader and a destination of choice for residents and businesses. And whereas the Dallas County Commissioners Court authorized the creation of an employee recognition program in 2012 to encourage recognition of dedicated employees who represent the best and the brightest of our workforce. And whereas the Dallas County Employee Recognition Program is consistent with the county's approved administrative plan under which the county seeks to operationally be a model governmental entity. These employees represent the exemplar employee Dallas County hopes to recruit and retain. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby salute the following employees for being selected as Employee of the Month in October 2016 for their respective departments and offers best wishes for continued success at Dallas County. And I so move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I might want to vote against it. Did you get your 8% raise?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I'm voting against it, though.
All right.
I was proud of that.
The motion carries 4-1. Let the record reflect Commissioner Press is.
Well, that's only because I supported the 8% more than a piece of paper.
All right.
Well, we couldn't do it without you, is all I have to say.
Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
All right. And our next resolution is from Commissioner Price.
Going to get the Sisters Network representatives, Mr. Zach Thompson, who is the honorary chair, come forward. Did one of these a couple of weeks ago. This is a different segment in terms of people in our community. Whereas early detection is key to breast cancer survivorship. Understanding facts about breast development, performing monthly self-exams, having an annual mammogram, and knowing your family history are all important tools to access risk factors for breast cancer. And whereas survival rates for African American women are lower, due in part to less awareness about breast cancer, barriers to health care access, lack of communication within the family unit, and belief in cultural myth and misinformation, and furthermore, triple negative accounts for 15% of all breast cancers and are more frequently found in the African American women than in any other ethnic group. And whereas the goal of Sisters Network, Inc., Dallas affiliate chapter, is to provide life-saving breast health awareness and education to our local community by presenting vital information at church functions, health fairs, and other community events, encouraging all African American women to have a mammogram screening in order to promote early detection, which saves lives. And whereas in recognition of October Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the Sisters Network Incorporated Dallas affiliate chapter theme for this year's awareness event is 6,000 Sisters, 6,000 Steps for Hope, representing the number of African American women who are diagnosed with breast cancer each year. And whereas Dallas County Health and Human Services Director Zach Thompson serves as the honorary chair of the 6,000 Sisters, 6,000 Steps for Hope Walk and Health Expo, which will host a walk beginning at 9 a.m. and an on-site mammogram mobile unit available for women to receive free basic screenings Saturday, November 5th, 2016 from 8 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. at Richland College, 12,800 Abrams Road in Dallas. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court, in support of the efforts of the Dallas County Health and Human Services and the Sisters Network, Inc., Dallas affiliate chapter, 6,000 Sisters, 6,000 Steps for Hope Walk and Health Expo, to contribute to early awareness, treatment, and prevention of breast cancer among African American women, does hereby proclaim November 5th, 2016, as 6,000 Sisters and 6,000 Steps for Hope Walk and Health Expo Day in Dallas County. And we urge all women to be proactive in the fight against breast cancer with early prevention through detection and treatment, and I so move.
And I second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Judge and Commissioner, before Zolene come up, I want to make sure it's real clear. This is personal. When you talk about the number of women that are diagnosed with breast cancer, but specifically in the report that was published in terms of the community needs assessment of new diagnosis, African American women in Dallas County still leads the statistics. When you also look at on the last page, when it focuses on the maps of where these diagnoses are taking place, they're in our underserved, uninsured areas. So at the end of the day, we can talk about 1 month of celebration, but this is every day in terms of those who go through a life-changing episode, not only for the mother, but for their family and for their community. So we can talk about a third West Nile virus death, but there are ladies and their families living with this situation day in and day out who can't go to work. This organization mentors those individuals. This organization provides the free mammograms. This organization is connecting with them each and every day, not just a one-time episode, but day in and day out, at night and weekend, through churches and civic groups. So I want to commend you and the organization for what you do each and every day, and I'll just get out of the way.
I just wanted to share also that we are a nationally,
Just introduce yourself.
Zolene Bruner with Sisters Network Dallas. I am the event chair for this year's 5th annual walk. And as I was saying, we are the only national African American organization that has 22 affiliate chapters around the U.S.
And I just want to say, and I was telling my staff today, you'd be surprised, and it talked about the family unit. There are a number of our families, and even here at the county, that have several individuals in their family who have breast cancer. You've seen and I said it the last week, that there are a number of men that have breast cancer as well, and that we need to check. This coming Saturday evening, Dr. David Williams from Harvard University, professor of sociology for African Americans. And one of the things he's talked about is what I've said in this court for years. Sometimes the zip code is more determinant than your DNA in terms of what happens to you. And very profound individual. If you get opportunities at Concord this weekend after your event. But he basically speaks to health overall, but primarily, and we've said this here, CDC, every time you look up, the implicator is always the same zip codes. And so thank you for your courage and for having not only faith, because without, work, faith, look, it's dead. And so I thank you. Thank you.
We'll get a photo up. It's her first time down here, so I want to make sure it's
Of course.
memorialized.
Of course, please come.
Can you repeat when the event is?
The event is this coming Saturday, 8 a.m., 12800 Abrams. And so that's this coming. I started it.
Richland College.
Richland College.
A little bit more. Everybody's in. On three, ready? 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dan.
And our last resolution today will be by Dr. Garcia.
Well, thank you, George, colleagues. I have the honor of recognizing today a man that has been a pillar not only in West Dallas, but in Dallas as a whole, working together with the African American community as well, have achieved so many, different things when it comes to service, to civil rights, when it comes to advocacy, when it comes to our government, that I'm very, very honored to recognize him today. And I'm going to ask his delegation, Mr. Henry Martinez Jr., Eladio Martinez, his family and friends that are here today, to come forward to the podium to get this resolution. And the resolution reads as follows. Whereas Henry Martinez Sr. is known for his outstanding commitment to Cemento Grande and to his current community in West Dallas, and whereas Mr. Martinez Sr. was born in the former Mexican community of El Cemento Grande in 1928 and attended the Eagle Ford School. He later graduated from Dallas Technical High School. And whereas Mr. Martinez Sr. was drafted into the U.S. Army in 1950 during the Korean War, earning an honorable discharge. His late brother, Eladio Martinez, served in the U.S. Army. He was killed in action during World War II in the Pacific and was a recipient of the Purple Heart Medal. And whereas, aside from serving his country, Mr. Henry Martinez Sr. has served his family and the community he was raised in by preserving the memory of the once thriving company town of El Cemento Grande, as it became known, which was created on company-donated land to use its Mexican labor force by the former Trinity Portland Cement Company. And whereas the Trinity Portland Cement plant opened in 1909 and attracted workers from San Felipe, Guanajuato, Mexico, who were escaping the Mexican Revolution, including Mr. Martinez's family, who was also from San Felipe. Whereas, when the cement plants closed, the company town and community of El Cemento Grande dwindled, except for the cemetery, where Mr. Martinez Sr.'s family members were laid to rest, including his mother, sister, uncle, and brother Eladio. This cemetery is the last remainder of Cemento Grande. Some of his first burials were victims of the 1918 influenza epidemic. The last burial was for Eladio Martinez, Mr. Henry Martinez Sr.'s older brother, killed during the war. Mr. Martinez Sr. who not only spent the last half-century protecting and preserving his family final resting place against encroachment of nervy development, but was also one of the plaintiffs who advocated for the 14-1 system of government in the city of Dallas, where African Americans and Latinos led the effort for fair representation in the city in the Dallas City Council. And he also worked to have Eladio R. Martinez Learning Center be named in honor of his late brother, and most notably fought to bring public transportation to the Ledbetter Neighborhood Association in West Dallas. He was the president of the association for many years, making possible the first public infrastructure in West Dallas. Today, Campo Santo Cemento Grande remains largely in part to the efforts of Mr. Henry Martinez Sr. and the other descendants of the now gone community of Cemento Grande. A special thanks to the Dallas County Historical Commission for helping preserve this memory with Henry Martinez Sr. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court officially extends its appreciation to Henry Martinez Sr. for his advocacy on behalf of the West Dallas Latino community and for preserving and protecting El Campo Santo de Cemento Grande in honor of his family and West Dallas community. And I so move.
And I second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. And, I also, colleagues, before Eladio takes the microphone, want to say that my special thanks to Mr. Losberg, the Historical Commission, and all the members that serve in the Historical Commission, because they are the ones who actually produce the beautiful, almost forgotten community of El Cemento Grande, historical, newsletter that they do every month, and they do a fantastic job. And it couldn't happen, without the hard work of the fantastic members that we have in that commission. Thank you, Mr. Losberg. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia, and members of the board. My father, Henry R. Martinez, regrets that he could not be here today because of illness, and he is very, very deeply honored to receive this award, and also that he gives his gratitude to the Commissioners Court and the community. And again, thank you very much. And I think Mr. Cerda has something to say.
My name is Gil Cerda. I'm a longtime partner of Mr. Martinez as a rookie police officer, and that's when I had black hair. But once again, thank you, Commissioners Court. Thank you, Dr. Garcia, because people like Mr. Martinez do a lot for the community, and it's good to get that pat in the back. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Henry Martinez Jr. I'm very honored to be here and receive this award. Thank you, Edgar Garcia, Commissioner Garcia, Judge Jenkins. It's an honor being here, and it's an honor of receiving this award in behalf of my dad. And first of all, I want to thank God, because for him, everything's possible. And that's what my dad always tells me. I speak to him every morning. He says, always keep God first before anything else. So that's what I do. On behalf of him, thank you very much.
Thank you. And I will go down, Mr. Do you want to come for a picture, Mr. Martinez? Yeah, come. And what, do you want to come to the back? Yes, thank you so much.
You look the same, and your hair, don't blame it on your hair.
Blinded by the light.
Yeah, you look the same.
We don't want to push you aside.
Go ahead.
What's going on?
Slide over toward the middle.
That's my man.
Long
Oh, yeah, long time. Long time, a real warrior,
Yep.
not one of those fakes. Yeah, Martinez is a real warrior. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay?
Thank you.
Before we leave this section, if I could take just a moment of personal privilege to make mention that we do not do this work by ourselves. I would like to recognize in particular one of the employees of the month who was not here this morning because he was up all night. I don't know, a few of us were aware, Major Victram and Dr. Terry Smith of Juvenile Department were aware that there was an issue with the network being going offline, which meant that there were problems with the communications within the Juvenile Department. Would like to recognize that behind Trin of Dallas County IT Department was one of those people who stayed up all night to verify what was going on, correct the problem, and then make sure that it stays on and is done correctly. So just wanted to say, you know, with respect to IT and to the variety of people and to the employees of Dallas County, that it is that kind of service that makes a difference. And so it's very much appreciated if Mr. Victram, if you would pass along to our employee who is now taking much needed rest. That we do appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
It's kind of what we, really kind of expecting. I really appreciate the fact this weekend that our employees are able to augment when faced with a number of issues. We've scheduled what we call shutdowns at Crowley for the next several weeks in order to come into compliance with some separation and generation facility issues over there. And as a result, I guess some of the broadcasts didn't get out to the enterprise. And so as a result, early Saturday morning, everybody had to adjust and move about 200 individuals out of Crowley into George Allen. And so I want to thank Chief DeGrood and all of those individuals for augmenting and doing that. Additionally, to Alberta Blair and her staff, we had one of the largest summits that they've ever put on for transit in the Southwest this weekend. When we look at this region, and I know Commissioner Cantrell and those of you who serve on COG, y'all understand, we've got about 7 million people in what they call the region. And in a very few years, we're going to have approximately 11 million people in this region. We are in trouble in terms of transportation. You can't build enough roads. You definitely can't build them and design them fast enough. And so the issue for us has got to be one of mass transit.
Just in Dallas County, by 2040, 5.2 million.
Yeah.
Just in Dallas County. That's incredible.
And so when we look at that, and we look at some of our cities that are basically landlocked, we've got to do something that is different. So I just want to thank you. It was it got a number of comments with regards to everybody from DART to Starlines to COG. They all presented, and it was a great production and presentation. So
I also want to, give thanks to the Public Works Department. This Saturday, they were in full force also in the city of Cockrell Hill with the project that we've been working on. And it was great to see the community. It was obviously a community event. And the kids, they have the maps with the cars, so the next generation could see how important it is to do one of the first runarounds that we're going to have in Dallas County. So thank you, Ms. Blair, and thank you. It was great to see the kids and the adults and everybody give their input and how excited they are to have this project in the city of Cockrell Hill, small community that a lot of people don't even know that it belongs to Dallas County.
really the first roundabout was Beltline, so.
Yeah,
Commissioner
no, I
Price
know,
beat you,
and I
but
say one of the first.
Blacker Hill will definitely be a great one as
Yeah,
well.
and at the first, people were a little concerned about it, and now that they've seen it and they're giving input, everybody seems to love it. So thank you, Ms. Blair, and thank you to the staff that was there in a hot afternoon, for more than 5 hours. Thank you so much.
I really want elections, I don't see any of them, maybe they're all down in the...
Now, they're here.
Yeah, there's Miss
Oh,
Tony
there
in
you
the
are.
school.
Okay.
Still alive and well, huh?
Yeah,
Miss Tony?
you're there, yeah, I got you. They're doing a fine job. I guess I'm more disappointed about what's going on in Dallas County, and whether it's Cockrell Hill or the southern sector. I'm talking folks in the north, and I'm not discounting folks in the north. I'm worried about folks in the south in terms of your voting and your turning out. I saw a lot of folks who were registered, but I'm just telling you, when we look at those numbers, we're not doing what we say we wanted to do. And at the end of the day, as my mama said, we're going to live under one of them. One of the four, I should say one of them, one of the four. We got this week the early vote until Friday at 7 o'clock. Souls to the polls, I guess you left your soul somewhere else, because they weren't, frankly, Scarlett, they weren't worth a damn.
But we're looking at what? At this point, probably 28% of the registered voters in Dallas County have already voted?
Lenny, what's that total number thus far?
331,000.
What's more?
331,000.
Yeah, it was 311. But that doesn't count yesterday's number, does it?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Okay. Well, if it was 311, okay.
It's 331. We crossed them last night at midnight. It's 331. We know who's voting. They may drop their voter files. We crossed them. 331.
Huh?
We have about 40,000 mail ballots too. That's not included.
Yeah.
Well, if you haven't voted, go vote.
Go out and vote. Don't be scared of it.
And today, guys, we have some of our community colleges online to early vote. So if you go on our website, Dallas County Votes, you can find there's 2 days of early voting at University of Dallas, SMU, and all the Dallas County community colleges, and some of those are online today, and some will be online later in the week. You can go online and see what's online. I know tomorrow El Centro, here right next to our building, is
Correct.
in its first of its 2 days. So plenty of 50 places in all to early vote. And we have presentations. Our first presentation, we have presentations. Our first presentation is from Dallas County Health and
I'll
Human
defer to it next time.
You want to do it next time? And Commissioner Price, do you want to do a presentation on judicial management?
I'm still getting feedback from individuals with regards to what we did 2 weeks ago in terms of commentary. So I'm still, getting feedback, and so there's nothing really to present this week. The next one will be a different section of judicial management. So still getting feedback and information.
All right. And so I've got let me make sure we don't have any other. I've got a presentation on the unincorporated areas. What we did on Friday.
Before you do that, is it any different than what is on 7 under?
It is, yeah.
Oh.
So on Friday we had or before Friday we had a call from Mr. McPherson and some of our federal partners who'd looked over the unincorporated area plan. I see at least one of our federal partners here, and I know Mr. McPherson is here. I want to talk, before they come up, about all things that we agree on in the unincorporated areas, because there's so much more that we agree on than anything that there's any questions about alignment on. All right? Everyone agrees that there is a concern in the future about substandard development. And We see that problem in Harris County and along our border and in many of our urban areas where the good jobs are in the urban areas, people are moving to the urban areas, and unscrupulous developers or perhaps developers who don't fully understand the process will tell people that if they move to the unincorporated areas, they'll eventually have city-like amenities, which just isn't true. There have been situations where people have moved into areas in other counties where there have been dirt roads. They've been told later they'll have city roads. That hasn't turned out to be true. They'll have, paved curb and gutter roads. That hasn't turned out to be true. We all understand there's not a mechanism in the unincorporated areas for those city amenities. The county is not in the water business or the road business. Well, we are in the road business. We are in the road business. We're not in the curb and gutter street business or the septic business. And Dallas Water Utilities and others may not want to provide services to those areas, and cities may not want to incorporate those areas. We also all agree that we have a problem with abandoned cars, squatters in houses that are not their own, people using abandoned property for illegal purposes, dangerous dumping, and all of those are things that there is a desire to address unanimously by this court, but also by the community of the people who live there. The concern from the community, which I think we had a great meeting, and I think that's been winnowed down some, but the concern for the community is in Dallas County, we have a few thousand people that live in our unincorporated areas, and relatively small when you consider that, for instance, in our neighbors in Denton and Collin County, they have 40 and 50,000 respectively that live in unincorporated areas, whereas we have well less than 10,000. Around 7,500 is the highest number I've heard estimated. So, and that number over each decade tends to go down a little bit. The people that live in our unincorporated areas, many of them are of limited means. Not all, some live on very nice multi-acre properties, but many of them are on limited means, have lived there for a long time, and that is their neighbor, their way of life. And so it is that concern that I have, I know others have, and members of the community have, that anything we do moving forward not be done in such a way that it scares the people who've lived there, and be done in a way that it improves the lives of the citizens who live there and the people who live there. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask Mark McPherson to come forward, who was at the meeting, who is a land use lawyer and a real estate lawyer who's done some work in Sand Branch, to give some thoughts that he has in representation of that community.
Thank you. Well, first of all, yeah.
Vote on an exception to the rules.
Well, no, this is just like a Parkland or any other presentation. I'm making a presentation to the...
You can, but not speakers. You can. No, you can.
I hear, if that's an objection, I hear your objection. However, this is a presentation similar to the presentations that we've had for TechShare and many others. So if that's an objection, I'll hear it.
Wait a minute. What do you mean similar for TechShare?
We've had people come in presentations before, but do you want to state out your full objection?
Well, no, I'm just saying, you're supposed to be presenting, and this is already on the agenda in a different kind of format. So, I mean, if he's speak, then as a speaker, will you tell me on what what I presented that anybody else has stated, other than staff? Because the staff hasn't laid it out yet. Other than staff, tell me where someone has come forward and presented.
I think we're going to have,
no,
is that your objection?
Well, yeah, because staff has to lay it out. I mean, you can't say coming. We got 14 communities.
Okay, is your objection you'd like for staff to lay it out before hearing my presentation? Normally, we hear the presentations first, but Daryl, do you want to just go a little bit out of order and lay out?
That's fine, we can lay out, we can.
Okay, go ahead.
That's fine,
sure,
that's
fine, no problem.
Okay, so we're going to 7, right?
Yeah, that's basically what we're doing.
This time, I'd like to ask Mr. Losberry to come forward, and we'll talk a little bit about the plan that we developed as part of our administrative planning process. I just want to dispel a little bit of the myth. I think a lot of people think this came up just because of Sand Branch, but this is a lot bigger than Sand Branch. We've been dealing with issues in the unincorporated, well, since I've been here, and over the last 7.5 years, and it's not just because of the issues of Sand Branch. As you know, we've had issues, as the judge mentioned, with squatters, with meth labs coming up, with all kinds of things happening in the unincorporated, and our stance has usually been pretty reactive. Our goal is, from this point forward, is to be a lot more proactive in our responses to the issues that are going on in the unincorporated area. I know it's just a small portion of the overall land mass of the county, and a small portion of the overall population of the county, but it does consume quite a bit of our time. Right now, we have 4 different departments who actually manage and respond to issues in unincorporated Dallas County. So part of this plan is to consolidate some of that and, again, be a lot more proactive in our response. So Rick will lay out a little bit of our plan.
We tried to look at a number of different things as we put this strategy together. One was just simply trying to figure out what the unincorporated area was really like. For a lot of us, we think of it as being Sand Branch maybe, or maybe the Beckley View, Beckley Crest area, which is surrounded by DeSoto. But when you start to look at the unincorporated area, all 70 miles, you see that there are about 14 identifiable neighborhoods, and they differ vastly from one another. You have some that are in neighborhoods that resemble something that you would see in Garland or Mesquite or Richardson. Then you see others that are sort of the large, sort of ranch-style estates. Then you see the ones that you would look at as maybe sort of being maybe the weekend property or something that somebody would have a mobile home on a large lot. And you just see everything in between. We were able to compile some information, and in the 30-something years that I've been here, I think this is the first time that we've had a real comprehensive look at what the unincorporated is, with real numbers and pictures and data and results. We've been able to also try to figure out or try to anticipate what we think the annexation prospects are for this. Through the years, we just always sort of hoped that maybe magically it would get annexed, as so much of the county has since World War II. But I think the area that you have remaining today, it's pretty much going to be here with us for the next 10, 20 years. There's going to be some areas maybe in the far northeastern corner, some of the areas immediately east of Wilmer and Hutchins that'll be annexed. But I think the vast majority, 2/3 of this, is probably going to be here for several decades. So that then leads us to the discussion of what is it that we want to do, or what is it that we should do. We've assessed the inventory of services that we currently provide. We've compared that to some of the other counties in the state, not just the ones surrounding us, but some elsewhere as well. We've seen how those services or administrative functions are deployed. They're typically housed in usually about 2 departments, very rarely as many as 4 is what we currently do. So then we try to figure out what's the best way of going, and we've identified various service level options for the court to consider, ranging from sort of a status quo to an enhanced, let's try to do better what we're doing, and then some sort of additional service levels that go far beyond that, depending on how the court would like to go. Then we put together some recommendations, and what we've hoped to do is provide something that was realistic. We wanted to be able to tell both the community, the public who lives in the unincorporated area, or the folks who might eventually locate there, what they can maybe expect from us over the next 5 or 10 years. The same thing, we also wanted to do it from a staff perspective, how we were going to be asked to deploy or begin to allocate resources. Were we going to suddenly have a vast departure from past history, and that would require us to either restructure MCIP or CDBG. This gives us the opportunity to know how those programs will or will not be involved over the next 5 or 10 years. This strategy has gone through various iterations. It was first drafted really about 120 days ago. Since then, it's been circulated by really all the affected department heads, and then also sort of the senior planning group that meets almost every off Tuesday to go over a number of pending issues for the court. It's by no means perfect. It's not a cure-all, as Commissioner Price inquired about last week, We do believe, though, it is a very realistic step towards improving the situation that we have now.
I do want to say also that we want to thank the 4 departments that have been responsive to the issues in unincorporated, Public Works, Health and Human Services, the Fire Marshal's Office, Planning and Development. The reason why we were such a reactive stance is because this is not any of their primary functions. I mean, they jumped in, they do it because that's what they do. When they see a response, they see a problem, they address the problem. One of the things we think we need to do is just have a primary focus on issues in the unincorporated, and that's why the development of the department was recommended.
But in addition to that, this is about operationalizing this whole area.
Yes, sir.
Number one. Number two, because the law clearly puts the responsibility on the county.
Right.
And we have some issues that are basically rising to the level and requests from citizenry that we need to be able to be very clear as to whose responsibility. When we talk about first responders, where we talk about whatever the issue that's looming out there. But it's as much our responsibility that we're driving to a central area and beginning to deal with that. It's, 74 square miles out of 955 and 7,800.
About 7,400 people.
7,400. So, but you got some areas out there. You got 14, you said this off into 14 communities, correct?
Yes, identifiable communities.
So, yeah, and they're delineated. So it's about management as much as anything, operation.
It truly is, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Well, it's totally about management. We're not expanding nor contracting anything that the county has historically done in the unincorporated area.
That's correct.
It's just a description of what
Consolidating.
is.
I'm sorry.
We're consolidating.
We're consolidating.
Try to do it better.
One point of contact for the public to contact. Okay.
And one of the things, I know Darrell mentioned at the very beginning of this discussion, the strategy was not crafted in response to Sam Branch. There had been a number of issues that had popped up over the last 2 years in particular, where we had already begun having internal conversations about this, and so it was wrapped into the administrative plan as that was being developed. The important thing here is that all the things that the county contemplated this past spring regarding Sam Branch, and a lot of the community, well, all the community efforts that were discussed with us in the spring regarding Sam Branch, they would still, this strategy does not affect them. All those things that we contemplated, what the community contemplated, would still be allowed to occur.
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, one of the things that we've had problems with is when developers go out there and they go, because of the ETJ, they go to the cities, then they try to develop some roads and then turn them over to become public roads.
Right.
We don't want more roads.
Right.
So that's a conflict. But there's no single point of contact. So what this does is it enables us to have that single point of contact.
Well, it's not
that the
so
city
much-
knows and the public knows.
Yeah, but it's not so much that they turn the roads over to us. The issue is whether or not they're building the roads within our regulation and standards.
Correct.
Because at least in one of my, probably the largest subdivision, Mallory, we got some issues with whether or not those particular roads that have basically been turned over.
Well, but at least we want the say-so of whether or not we're going to let them be turned over to the county to maintain.
Well, and that's part of my concern, Commissioner Control. I think
Well, it's
Commissioner
my
Price...
concern. I don't want any more roads. When they build them, they need to
And
maintain
what kind of
them.
roads, like
That's right.
Commissioner Price just mentioned? I seen one that is so narrow. I tell you, I mean, if everybody leaves at 7 o'clock in the morning, you'll have a traffic congestion right there. And that has been my concern as we develop this plan, the fact that we need to be sure that developers, know exactly the lines that affects Dallas County and what is the municipality
Responsibility.
Yeah, responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think that, like we have been mentioning, it's very important to have the point of contact, because right now between Public Works and your staff and the sheriff and the fire marshal has been very complicated, because nobody knows, and it's very easy to say, oh, that's the county responsibility, and then the county comes and says, oh, wait a minute, that's not our responsibility. You know, the planning, you know, how do you replat it? How do you develop it? And what are the services? And the judge also mentioned something really important. You know, what are the expectations? The developer is going to come, he's going to develop, he's going to sell it, right, basically to African Americans and Latinos, and then, you know, they get out of the picture and they say, in the future, you will have the streets like that. Well, I don't know if I want it like Dallas, but I mean, with that being said, you know, you will have a different infrastructure, which is not true. And until we have legal coming into the picture as well with the staff that you're requesting, Mr. Lusberg, and everybody clarifies what exactly are the responsibilities of the county, what exactly are the responsibilities of the municipality, we are going to continue to have the problems that we're having. And of course, you know, the fire marshal has been having the monthly meetings, who brings all the staff together. I think he's done a fantastic job. I hope that this work continues, you know, with all the different entities. And I just want to ask you a few questions publicly because of the way it reads in the briefing. The positions that you are requesting for the $244,000 is an engineer that will have the experiences in plattings and zoning and
Subdivision regulations, street and drainage, yes.
It's not a staff that will be pulled from Public Works.
No.
It will be someone with this expertise. You're also asking for 2 inspector positions.
And those are transferred existing positions.
I mean, with the funding, Mr. Brown, included, or where will that come from?
The funding will be coming from the general fund. Historically, those nuisance abatement officers were funded by 3 of the road and bridge districts, but going into 2017, knowing that we were going to make a change, the road and bridge districts were not funding those positions going into as of October 1.
Okay, and those inspectors will be bilingual, obviously, and will be able to work under the engineer supervision.
And the director.
Another thing that I would like the inspectors to have is some experience in dealing with community issues. I mean, I don't want them, and I think the judge and I have talked about this, on only being enforcement of citations on things of that matter, but also communicating and explaining to the community what is the way, where illegal dumping is not allowed, animal control issues, et cetera, right, Mr. Lusberg?
Our fire marshal has a very unique phrase that he uses. He's not looking for citations, he's looking for compliance.
Correct.
And that's how you do it.
Now, we have the 2 nuisance abatement officers already there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, what you're saying is they're going to be bilingual.
There's a vacancy.
There's a vacancy.
They exist, but there's a vacancy.
Is that a requirement that they be bilingual, or is this an incentive that they be bilingual?
Okay,
I'm just asking. I really want to know.
You know, I just want someone, because I get some of those calls, and they're only Spanish speakers. You know, you call it
when you asked the
whatever you
question,
want.
Commissioner, it was like it was a given that they were going to be bilingual. I want to know,
I just say that
is that a job
hopefully will be
requirement in
bilingual.
here?
Go ahead.
Yeah, hopefully they will have written.
Wait for his answer.
The job descriptions are existing.
Right, and it's not a requirement.
It's not a job.
Okay, but it made it sound like it was, and I just want to make sure.
Well, I mean, I will hope that these people are bilingual, because they will need to have specifically, because I have gotten those calls, Spanish
Some
ones.
will be, but when you look at the
Only Spanish
7,400 individuals, when you look at these 14 communities, we know what the demographic is with regards to those communities.
Thank you.
Okay, so, and they're different in different parts of the county. The 55-45 is floodplain to non-floodplain.
Correct.
In terms of the area. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I don't know if everyone, I'm sure they did, do we still have some real legislative agenda? Because one of the things we did, and this all came up a few years ago, Public Works did this, as we dealt with ETJs. We had an edict from the state of Texas to basically help regulate all the ETJs. Again, Rick, you were around, that was prior to you, Mr. Martin. So I'm looking at a timeline from 3/18/71, pre-me, all the way up to 3/16, and everything from residential building codes to no authorization building codes and all its interplay. I think everyone has seen this, and the legal piece, because that's what really became the genesis of all this. Other than illegal rodeos, illegal salvage yards, TCEQ requirements in terms of the permitting, but a lot of this is still some issues at play. As I said, it's not going to be the cure-all, but we still have some real challenges, and maybe even, Charles, some legislative issues. I know in the meeting on Friday we mentioned the subdivision of Bear Creek. Well, that's where a lot of my issues are hailing from.
Yes.
There's been a lot of talk back and forth. What are the responsibilities of Dallas County related to providing services to the unincorporated areas of the county?
Most of it's very, a lot of the authority that's in the chart that you have in your possession is discretionary. You don't have to do some of the things that we've done. Over time, we have moved in that direction. The very basic things that we're obligated to provide are fire and police protection, that type of things. Historically, roads going back almost to Davy Crockett and counties are synonymous. So we've always had that idea. Beginning in the early 70s, you had the federal flood insurance program. That moved us into the floodplain management game. Almost coincidentally, you had the authority to start to regulate subdivisions in the unincorporated area. That all happened in the early 70s. Then you sort of had another flurry, maybe in the last 5 to 10 years, where you could begin to regulate outdoor businesses, that you could regulate or do permits for, in a very limited manner, residential building, commercial fire codes. So that sort of takes us to where we are today. So the county at every instance has taken advantage of the new authority that's been given to it.
But is that part of it too, that we do what the state tells us to do by statute and by regulation, right?
Well, we have to do that, but then they've also given us the opportunity to do more, and we've chosen to do that.
Who gives us the opportunity?
The legislature. Like for instance, and the fire marshal can correct me, I don't believe we're obligated to have a commercial fire code, but the fire marshal came to the Commissioner's Court a while ago and asked for the court to adopt a commercial fire code, which the court did.
I'm just trying to figure out, what's the framework, what are the parameters?
Judge Roden, you basically scripted this and then laid this out from 1963 all the way up to 16 in terms of where the county has been, where it is now, the responsibilities in terms of both the law and the legislature. Because there is a difference. One, the legislature has done one piece of this, and then the courts, in their decision, has done another piece with regards to unincorporated areas. So there is a marked difference between the legislature and the law. Judge?
Yes, and the chart, I do have a chart that has a timeline that really incorporates the Bear Creek edition and different laws that have been passed over that time period, but also the legal briefing that's part of your overall package goes through and categorizes each area of potential regulation that we have, and then explains what the law is in that area, what legal interpretations have applied to that, and what our practice has been in the past and our recommendation of going forward. It's a matter of clarifying, for instance, in the ETJs and subdivision regulations, as the memo points out, what we've done in the past and what the law is and what our rights are as a county with respect to platting that's going to include roads and things of that nature. We have the ability to exercise our authority in those ETJs in conjunction with the cities. And I'm not sure that has always happened.
That's right. The cities.
But legally, we do have that right, and that is set forth in how we should go forward in making sure that whatever the court chooses to exert under those authorities is set forth and clear both for our partner cities and developers.
And that's exactly what our engineer is going to do.
Yes.
This, again, in the legal briefing, again, the whole issue of addressing was, again, part of the genesis that brought us to this operation line, because there was a request by the subdivision as far as to start addressing these various properties. And we had to basically say, time out, because we've got some issues. There's been some other legal issues with regards to not only whether or not we get together with the cities and come together with an agreement, but some of, at least in my subdivision, I don't know what's going on in the north, because as I said, probably about 90-some% of this is in my district.
Commissioner Control has the other one.
Yeah, he has the other little piece there, and I think Sanibel, hopefully, they take that up in the district as well. I guess what I'm going to is that the whole issue of addressing and some other issues have been mirrored because HOAs have gone to the legislature to get authority to basically circumvent what I consider to circumvent us.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things that are looming out there that, and I think that this department, I appreciate the briefing. Like I said, this was done specifically for me in Bear Creek, but it applies across the board. It gives us our history, and I think I want to commend the department, the court administration, and the departments for beginning to fashion this. Now, I've said, and I want to be very clear, 55% of this is floodplain, 45% is non-floodplain.
Correct.
When we talk about floodplain, how does the department envision us going forward in that regard? Because, the issue has been, and I'm a member supposedly through this MS4, environmental, et cetera. Does this create any obstacle with regards to floodplain management in the area or in the county? Because, Rick, that's what happened with Sand Branch. We were going down that road, no good deed got unpunished. And we went down that road, and all of a sudden, FEMA said, hold up.
Well, what's being proposed is that the current floodplain responsibility would be transferred to the new department, and that would be one of their primary day-to-day functions. So it would be something that they could concentrate on and prioritize appropriately. They could also then use that. I know there's been discussion, of course, we've had levy district issues, and they would be able to deal with that and have that be a major day-to-day responsibility of theirs. I know you and I have talked a little bit about the MS4 relationship, and MS4 was set up really to deal more with pollution, and of course floodplain management is more dealing with flood protection. So they're relatives, they're family members, but they're more cousins as opposed to siblings.
Let me ask you, that of the 55% that's in the unincorporated area, how does that floodplain management impact the rest of the county? Because again,
our floodplain responsibilities are limited only to the unincorporated area. Now, obviously, you have to be aware of what happens upstream and downstream of you. So, regardless of, which department has floodplain management responsibility, they have to, it's not a vacuum that we live in. And so they have to be cognizant of that.
I'm sorry, can I interject on that? One thing here is about floodplain management. Floodplain management is a whole, full dynamic. It's not just one individual slice of one location. From a region, we look at floodplain from a regional standpoint. We are members of many committees with COG. We're reviewing information through the COG that's looking at upstream information, and that applies throughout the whole entire county. So floodplain is just like I've mentioned before when we're dealing with thoroughfares. it doesn't stop at the border. We continue and look at that from a holistic standpoint, from a regional standpoint.
Does the fact that they propose to place at least 1 year PE engineer to manage the floodplain in this particular area, which is our primary responsibility, impact what you would be doing in the rest of the county?
Yes, sir. It could have some impact, especially if we're dealing with review processes, especially when it comes to the corridor development certificate that we usually have to address.
Then wouldn't it make more sense for us to put this under your office?
Well, hold on. I wanted to finish so I can hear the department. Go ahead.
When we're reviewing our corridor development certificates, we're looking at development in all around the county. So therefore, we're reviewing this information and providing information back to COG and for the whole region. So this individual who would be reviewing, in other words, we would have to go back and repeat what they would do. In other words, I've said before, as engineers, we don't just individually say, okay, well, we agree with this person over here. We have to go back and repeat their analysis, review the studies that come along, because most of the time, this is study information that's coming in for us to review and coordinate and provide information. And that information goes not only to COG, we're dealing with the Corps, we're dealing with all regional agencies that we have to provide permit information back to. And so this is a part of the process, even when we're dealing with thoroughfare type projects.
Well, that's going to be different than dealing with the areas that they're going to be dealing with.
Well, only thing I'm saying here is when we're reviewing, if we're reviewing information and providing feedback, especially if we have to get feedback on a project, on a study, we're not going to just take.
When you say a project, are you talking about a road project?
A road project. When we're dealing with bridges, we have Loop 9 that's going to be in this one area. We have other locations.
Well, I think
this is all part of the process.
Two different things. I think explain to us what you're looking for this particular position. Is it strictly related to
the issuance of development permits in the unincorporated area?
Right. So why shouldn't that be separated out from what you're doing with road projects?
When you're looking at development, if the developer comes in and he's impacting the waters of the U.S., especially if we're in the floodplain area, we usually get involved. The Corps is looking at us in the sense of permitting. So that may trigger a Corps permit. That may trigger the whole process. If that comes to be, that affects projects. So we end up looking at what projects are occurring along that stream, along that location, especially when we're dealing with the Trinity River. If you're dealing with the Trinity River, you're going to end up looking at all that information. So therefore, if you have a big development, that could trigger it.
But what you're saying then is that Public Works is still going to be involved with the floodplain, with dealing with flood.
As I said, none of us, ideally, or none of us, even in the present day world, operate in a vacuum.
Right.
We're always consulting and being involved with the entities and the organizations and the forces that we need to be with. It was envisioned here in this proposal that it would be the permitting aspect. Anything that Public Works needs to deal with as far as hydrology, in conjunction with any of its projects, it is anticipated they will continue to do that as they need to do.
So
and that's why we did not take that position from them.
Okay, but
the recommendation was not to take that from them.
I think the only thing I want to make a point here is just making sure that whoever's the qualified stamp PE, see, we're looking at where we have to deal with the state in the sense of who's signing off. And as part of the county, who's signing off.
And that should be you.
That's where I'm saying it should come back to Public Works.
But for what type of permit, though, Alberta?
Let me ask you a question real fast. So will this be the only PE that we have that's outside of Public Works, or do we have others?
No, I believe
I have PEs on my staff.
Okay.
Yeah. This would not be the only one.
Okay, so how many PEs do we have outside Public Works?
Just think.
I have two and a designer.
Right.
Two, and that's it so far?
That's.
Go ahead, guys. Sorry.
But again,
You were
we're
gonna
working on
ask
different
for
functions.
something.
And I think the way it works, even with those two licensed PEs, we do a lot of heavy coordination with those two PEs as well. And matter of fact, we're there monitoring some of their work.
Well, as I shared when I met with Alberta a couple of weeks ago on this whole project, that I expect that to continue. This is a coordinated effort. It should not happen in a vacuum, even if when this department is developed, because I'm still going to need these monthly meetings as we described, where all of the departments will continue to come together to review all the permits and work together so that we can be successful in this department with this unincorporated strategy. Because it won't be successful if we don't have all these players continue to meet and work together.
But at the end of the day, I mean, Ms. Blair, if I hear correctly what you're saying, is Public Works the one that, is going to certify any kind of project when it comes to, dealing with other entities?
Yes, in the sense of floodplain management and stormwater quality.
And the legal part,
Well, but I think we need to differentiate between what, Alberta, when you say floodplain management, do you mean the rules that the county has promulgated for the unincorporated area, or are you talking about extending it to when it affects an MCIP project?
I'm saying it in the sense of affecting the county.
And
Because that affects our projects as well.
But I'm not sure I understood that answer, though.
Well, let me ask a simple question for a simple person. If you've got a person out in the unincorporated area and they have a question as to any of the services that you've listed under Exhibit C, if you take out the piece about the floodplain and put it over here, instead of having something where you're a one-stop shop for all of it, so now you're going to peel that off and put it over here in Public Works, so now you've got 2 points of contact to go to. And so who's to say we shouldn't just rip off some of this other stuff and put it in the other place? In other words, we're trying to get a one-stop shop. We're still going to coordinate with your department, and you can still do all the stuff that you do right now. We're trying to get a one-stop shop that they can come in and they can ping off of one particular department and get done what they need to get done. The vast majority of these things are going to have a core permit out in the unincorporated area when they do their development.
No,
How many have you issued, how many core permits have you sought after for development in the unincorporated area within the past year?
We haven't had any this past year, sir.
I think we might be talking about three. I'm hearing a third thing from what you just talked about. So we've got the idea to create a whole new department, and then what I was hearing from Alberta is putting the positions, or what, I don't know if she was saying that, but what I was thinking is, why don't we just put the positions under Public Works, where we take these three positions and put them under Public Works? And then what you're saying is, it would be a problem to put the PE under Public Works and leave the other two floating out there. Is that what we're talking about? You're saying put one under Public Works and leave the other two floating, or you want all three, or what are we saying here? What are the...
Our recommendation is, again, to have a separate department.
Your recommendation is a separate department. I'm giving a little bit of pause about the bureaucracy of just creating yet another department, but I'm not totally foreclosed to that idea. But generally, I'm opposed to new departments.
Well, the concern is to create more bureaucracy, going back to what Commissioner Cantrell said, because we're thinking about the public and where do I go for the services that I need? Do I go here or do I go there?
But if they were all under, like for instance, now we have, sub-departments in departments, right? So if three employees were in Public Works and there was a sub-department of Public Works that was unincorporated issues, and they had support from other engineers and other employees in Public Works, would that not be a more cost-effective and better way to do it? Kind of like the idea of lawyers being able to bounce things off other lawyers around the water cooler.
Yeah, but that's, you're missing.
At least office them
missing the
together.
point. I'm not gonna put nuisance abatement officers under.
Exhibit C up there?
Why can't we?
But no, because I don't want.
Because they're gonna be under that engineer, right?
No, they're gonna really be dealing with the fire marshal, and, okay, so that's another department. That's another department. That's one of the reasons that,
Well, isn't it a matrix where you, for this particular issue, anybody in the unincorporated area has to go to at least 4 or 5 different departments to accomplish anything?
Yes.
And it would seem that for the efficiency of this particular issue, which in fact has not been comprehensively addressed in the past, and the attempt right now is to put it all together so that in fact on this particular issue we can, it's just coordinated. That does not mean that Public Works is not going to continue working with the flood issues in other parts of the incorporated county area, or that Health and Human Services would be doing, having tasks to be done in other parts of the county, or that the fire marshal doesn't work with permits in other parts of the county. That's still part of their job description.
Correct.
Right.
But it's just a way of coordinating and making this particular activity one that could be efficiently addressed in all of its component parts.
And making it be its reason to exist, its sole priority.
But at the end of the day, if I understood correctly, Ms. Blair will have the final decision when it comes to something that comes under public work.
For any hydrology flood issue that pertains to MCIP, that will be the jurisdiction of Public Works exclusively.
Okay.
I think that's going back to projects, because again, I mean, it needs to be clear because COG is looking at us. We're on committees with COG. We are the ones signing off at COG for the entire county. So
you would still be the person that will represent Dallas County, right, Mr.? Because I think I see what Alberto is saying.
You know, I have to believe that probably 90% of the COG-related business is going to naturally fall within Public Works.
Because on the environmental side, those are not project-specific. That's more about environmental and about quality control, and that's on another side besides transportation. So that's what I'm saying here. On that side of the fence, we're looking at from a regional standpoint.
Let's do this to all of you. Let's look at, Harris County and Bexar County and some of these others, I'm sure, are addressing this very issue.
we did look at them, Judge.
They do, and they typically put it
in one department because...
Or 2 departments is what they do.
Rather, yeah, in 2 departments. Do we have... I know we've looked at, for instance, in Harris County, 1/3 of the county is an unincorporated. But is there any other counties that we know of where the unincorporated areas are so small compared to...
No, we are an outlier.
Okay, well, anything else on this before we hear from the presentation? And then...
I just have one more question. What staff is recommending to move forward with this item today, what is our timeline for the development, for the hiring of these, 2, 3 people, whatever?
Well, the hope is, I want to thank Mr. Lossberg, who's developed some job descriptions. I want to run those through the department heads. I would like Alberta and Robert to look at those, just because, again, they've been involved. So the hope is to have these up and posted by the beginning of the year, because I still need to go to civil service for approval of the positions. So the hope is by the beginning of the year to at least have them posted, hopefully by February, mid-March, the latest, to have the staff on board and to be up and operating by mid-spring.
In this process, obviously, the fire marshal, Alberta, all the departments that work in incorporated areas will be involved, right?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I do have to say, colleagues, I mean, I'm delighted to see this in front of us from the point that we're ready to do something. Now, I hope that we can make it happen as, efficiently as we can, that it doesn't drag for 2 years like other projects, and of course that we continue to have those meetings together. I know that when you are creating a new venue, a new department, sometimes it's hard to know where everybody's going to fall, but hopefully by that time that will be solved. And I definitely look forward to working with everyone. And there's just one more piece, Commissioner. Give me just 1 second. The legal part. as we develop all of these guidelines, we need to be sure that there's the legal team, and I know probably Mr. Heichel will be the person that will be involved with Mr. Roden in being sure that all these agreements, that all these, municipality, county agreements are very clear to both parties as well as developers, and hopefully we can introduce to the community a new team that will be more focused on to incorporated areas for my colleagues that, represent those areas. So, thank you, Mr. Losberg, thank you, Mr. Martin, Ms. Blair, Fire Marshal.
All right.
Mr. Martin.
Well, let me just say this, we have multi-departmental approvals. You sometimes have it where the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing.
Right.
And what this does, by consolidating that, all of those responsibilities that you see in the middle of the page, that's going to eliminate some of those problems that we've been having. So I think overall, I think it's the best way to offer that type of service to the public out there.
All right, that's been laid out now. I'm ready to continue on with this presentation. Are there any other objections to the presentation before hearing from? No? All right, Mr. McPherson, could you please come up and give us a community perspective on some of this?
Happy to do so, Judge. Thank you very much. I have written comments. It's about a 4-page memo that I can, would you like to? Yeah, I do.
No, because this presentation.
If I can count.
We check things like this.
So there's not a time limit?
You can go back and forth, there's no time limit.
I'm sorry?
No, there's no time limit, you can go back and forth.
There's no time limit.
It's going to be 5 minutes.
So future presentations, there's no time limits on it.
Right, this is a presentation.
Okay.
Could somebody up there present?
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I would just say at the outset, I agree with Commissioner Garcia. I think this is a step in the right direction. Having looked at it and reviewed it, and based on my experience as a real estate lawyer, my clients and certainly real estate lawyers like certainty. We don't like gray areas. We don't like too much discretion. We need to know, because when we're planning a project, and the more complex a project it is, the more important this is, discretion breeds costs that are unknown, and developers need to know what the costs are on the front end so that they can build that into their development all the way down the line. So this is, I think, a good concept. And so let me just briefly talk a little bit about, maybe clear up some confusion that I heard a little bit earlier. The way I see this is the point person, there are two different interactions. One, there's an interaction from the public or the developer or whomever, the private sector, to Dallas County for permits or for a project. That's one. That's what this does. This funnels everything to one person or one point department. From there will be policies built on the back end to where that department reaches out to the other expertises of Dallas County staff to get their consideration and approval and comments and so forth, and then pull it back and then go back out to us. So it funnels into this department and then it funnels out back to Dallas County staff so that the Public Works and other departments can continue the roles that they need to do. And certainly COG is a role. I'm very, very, very aware of that. So with that said, let me just briefly address a couple of comments. And I do want to thank the judge for helping to arrange the meeting that I had on Friday, because it made my comments today much fewer. So save you some time today. Obviously, when it comes to Sand Branch, the first concern that always jumps up is this a pretext to an involuntary relocation? That community is very sensitive to that. We addressed this issue directly, and I have been assured that that is not the intent, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to staff, is to get a better idea of where this came from and what the other issues were. And so, lawyers don't do very good with taking people at their word. We like to see things in writing, but I think there's a way to include some protections in codes and in enforcement procedures to encapsulate really what the EPA is taking the lead on right now with environmental justice concepts, to make sure that communities that have been affected negatively because of environmental injustice, that there's a process in place to help them recover from that before they feel the full brunt of the law, like areas that have never been impacted by environmental injustice have been, because that makes the injustice that much worse. So there needs to be some way to get back in that. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was in Washington, D.C. at the request of the EPA, and we met with the Federal Interagency Working Group for Environmental Justice, and this is where they're at right now. They are working toward putting environmental justice concepts into their enforcement codes. The EPA has guidance already out to deal with environmental justice and include it in their permitting and when they're writing their regulations. But we need this in enforcement as well. And so I'll be helping propose some ideas for them, and those similar concepts really go right in here with what you're doing as well. The floodplain. Floodplain is an important distinction, and you have a responsibility as a floodplain administrator to administer your part of the floodplain in accordance with the National Flood Insurance Program, and if you don't, the entire county can be disqualified from participating in the NFIP. I totally understand that. That is a very legitimate concern. But a floodplain is not an absolute bar to development. It just changes the engineering that needs to be done. And it really becomes a lot-by-lot kind of determination on that. And in Sand Branch, just for an example, there are some lots that are 3 feet below floodplain and some that are almost right at base flood elevation. So it wouldn't take that much to do it. I mean, like was mentioned before, it's possible for Dallas County to look at other cities and counties that have large floodplain areas and see how they've managed them, because there's been plenty of development in places like Galveston and Houston and New Orleans, almost all of it in the floodplain. So the floodplain itself isn't a problem. It just needs to be managed properly. And the other thing I would say, and I think this is my last big point, and then I'll summarize. Well, totally, I lost that thought, so let's just go right to the summary. Your staff has laid out 4 different options in this for y'all to consider, and I agree that option 1 is not where you need to be. That's where you are right now, and that's obviously not where you want to be. Option 4, probably best in theory, but it's too expensive. It just doesn't make economic sense. So where I come at it is where that kind of a blend, take all of option 2, but blend in a couple of concepts from option 3. I would like to suggest that you consider expanding the county's replacement housing program into its unincorporated areas, because Dallas has such an affordable housing crisis right now, and maybe this would be a way to solve some of that. I would like to see a directive to the new staff to identify sources of funds for more proactive improvements to better realistically improve the living conditions in the unincorporated areas. Not only could it be just about codes and enforcement, but about finding resources and being able to point people to those resources as the need arises. And then I would like to, and I've already mentioned this, add a directive to the new staff to incorporate environmental justice concepts into your development codes and your formal enforcement policies. And then finally, I would like to suggest that you hold some town halls maybe on this in the affected areas and solicit input from those that would be affected by this, because as has been said, I'm only associated with Sand Branch, and it has one set of problems and the others are very different problems. But I do think that it would go a long way toward, and I'm a big proponent of process, legitimizing the substance, and when you lay a process out that the public can see and the public can know that they had an opportunity to realistically affect substance, they're much more likely to be happy with the substance and accepting of it and not just being rebellious of it, which causes enforcement problems from the get-go. So those are just my brief comments, and I'll leave the rest of it in my memo for you to read at your leisure.
Thank you, sir.
Weren't you also the lawyer for Bear Creek?
So I represented years ago the developer when he purchased the property for Phase 2 Bear Creek. I closed that sale for him. I did not pull a permit.
Yeah, neither did he. But okay, that's a whole nother story. That's part of the problem. But okay.
So what I'm hearing a lot from today is a lot of agreement. Some concerns about things that may happen or things that fears that people have. Some concerns about process of how you meld in and best staff these functions. But what I'm hearing from the community and from everyone on the dais and from all staff, I think, is that we need to streamline the process of permitting, enforcement, and that we're moving in the right direction. I think that would be a fair statement that everyone in the room that we've heard from would agree with, I think.
But other than the PE, all of the rest of them, we're just relocating individuals.
Right.
They're already in the pipeline.
That's right.
So, I mean, it's, all we're talking about is moving people to one place. And if, in fact, we're still going to get a PE with regards to floodplain management, and that person is still going to collaborate with Public Works, then I don't even understand what we're really talking about.
That's right.
Because that's it.
That's it.
Okay.
And what are we talking about?
I would like for us to, and I'll pull it I'd like for us for staff to talk more about this. I'd like to understand a little bit better about the concerns that were expressed today, but I think we're, to using an analogy, we're like a foot away from the finish line here of resolving this. So, but I want to hear about that, and let me tell you what, my just philosophical thought is, anytime that we can take a well-functioning department, like say Public Works, and take a new section, a new PE, and move these two enforcement liaison, community liaison persons underneath Public Works, that seems to me to be better than, and having that be a separate, a separate department under Public Works, than having it be a standalone. And I come at that from the reasoning of it's valuable for an engineer to be in a building with, around a water cooler with, bouncing ideas off of other engineers, particularly other engineers who are involved in the same sphere of things, not the exact same thing. He or she is focused on their thing. This person over here is building a road and concerned about flooding, whatnot. But there seems to be, some advantage to me of that. If we could think of some way to do that, where the fire marshal's still involved, without having to create another standalone, because the danger of a standalone, it's like a small little office. That engineer, if they're alone on an island, or so to speak, in their own building, then
You just talked about where they're housed? I mean,
where they're housed and where they answer up to. Who does the engineer's performance review, for
we're all
instance?
gonna
Would
be
it
in
be
the same
an
areas,
engineer,
right?
or would it be?
You need a review. They're
Because,
professional engineers.
you have to also think we're also going to have two law enforcement officials there who are going to be part of this department, so.
Well, and the engineer's their boss? Is that how we
the
envision
director
it?
will be their boss.
The
So,
director, who is an engineer.
doesn't necessarily have a, right, it's the director, an engineer, and two nuisance abatement officers.
Okay.
That's the development of the department.
Okay.
Okay, and director, of course, is going to be important because they're going to be working on a lot of focus on those ETJs and those, working on those master agreements so that we make sure that we get those right, focusing on annexation where we can annex. So, you know, it's
I'm
a
not
distinct
forestalled
function.
to your idea. I'm just saying, in listening to this, I'm not seeing why that couldn't work with putting all of them, since it's really, isn't it predominantly, because we're dealing with a floodplain, an engineering first focused enterprise. I mean, sure, we need to get out there and make sure those cars aren't dumped on the side of the road, and that needs to happen, and tire mountains and all that. But it seems to me that the tricky part of this, especially with developers coming at us, is the engineering focus of this.
Well, that and the nuisance piece is a big piece of it.
It is,
It
but
really is. I mean, we've got to stay on top of that piece because
And if this were in
building code, exactly.
if this were in the desert and they were just dumping things out in the desert, nobody's going to build anything there, then I don't think I'd care that it was, you know, I'd probably say, let's not create a new department, let's put that under the fire marshal.
Well, but
But
that's the same thing
because
you
it's
said-
so flood related, you know, that's kind of what I'm trying to get my head around.
We continue to work together.
Wait. And again, you know, you make this thing more convoluted. Let me say, TCEQ, the nuisance abatement people have as much to do with TCEQ because of salvage yards.
Right.
Those are basically issues that I don't need an engineer to do.
I understand that.
Bottom house, you don't need, I mean, there's all kinds of
Yeah,
issues.
there's a ton of things.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is, whereas there may not be a need for a code enforcement person who is citing someone for having an illegal dumping tire mountain on their premises, to have an engineer, but there may be a need for an engineer on other things, given that we're in a majority floodplain area, and we're talking about a focus on new developers coming and having a one-stop shop. I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm just saying, in listening to this, there's a lot to be said with however it's done, making sure there's really good coordination with Alberta's department.
I agree.
Well, and I think the
I agree.
department has taken all that into consideration.
Okay, so that takes us to consent agenda, I think. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
moved.
Yes, there's not.
Second.
My computer is not working.
Yeah, mine's off. No,
You did,
Mike,
yeah.
can you do it?
I'll just move 15-minute
It's off after 15
refresh.
seconds.
You know, this
Copy your email.
Just so folks know, there's a 15-minute refresh on all computers now because of security concerns. I mean, it's been a requirement of.
We're very secure now, they just don't
Yes.
work.
But it is a requirement, and Mr. Vick's team has been working on a number of requirements to get us in compliance. So I know it's frustrating to folks, but
Mine has been longer than 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, 15 minutes, you have to refresh it. You have to hit it, you gotta put a timer on it. Yeah.
It's super refreshing
Well,
still.
I've got a keyboard here. Is this,
No, that ain't gonna get you.
that's not going to work either? Okay.
That'll get you there, you can go.
You punch it in.
Well, she says it didn't work.
Oh, it's not? Oh.
No, wait, just something happened.
what's the?
Okay. All right, we're just kind of, can you do it without the computers? Okay, so we're on the consent agenda. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously.
I'm going on.
All right, next.
Agenda item.
We have agenda items. I need so the following are being pulled for 2 weeks. We had 7, 9, and 18.
Right.
And then we need a motion on the following. Let's see.
Okay, 7, 9, and 18 are pulled by staff, right?
Yes, that's right. So court orders, we need a motion on court orders K1 through 52 and addendums 53 and 54, pulling 7, 9, and 18 for 2 weeks.
18 is being pulled permanently.
Oh,
So
okay.
7 and 9 for 2
Okay,
weeks,
yeah,
18.
Pull for whatever. Okay, so pulling 7, 9, and 18, and pulling 21, 22, 46, 47, 48, and 49 for separate votes. So can I get a motion on that?
Pulling what for separate vote?
21, go right there. 22,
Judge, I'm sorry to interrupt, but on 54, there is a requirement to allow a response to be presented if so chosen by the person who's involved in Order 54 on the amendment.
oh,
Okay.
all right.
I think he's here.
And he's here?
It's,
I'm not sure. If he's available or wants to speak, he has that opportunity
Oh.
and an announcement.
All right. Do we know?
Separate vote again.
Yeah, let's pull that one for a separate vote as well. All right, so I need a motion, if somebody who wants to make that motion wants to jot this down. I need a motion on K1 through 52, 53, and,
J1 to 52, addendum 53 and 54.
well, 54, we're going to pull for a separate vote.
Correct.
So 1 through 53, pulling 7, 9, and 18, and pulling 21, 22, 46, 47, 48, and 49 for separate votes. Is there a motion on that?
And 54.
Well, 54 is, yeah, it's the very end, right. Is that your motion?
No, I didn't make a motion.
No, you just,
So moved.
when you get into the 40s, you can.
Okay,
All right,
I got it, Judge. It's J1 to 51,
okay.
addendum 53, like K53, as Commissioner Control say, pulling 7, 9, 18, 21, 22, 46, 47, 48, 49, and 54.
That's right. Yeah, I think she's already made it. Is that your second?
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
Second. I didn't hear you.
So we have a move by Commissioner Daniel and a second by Commissioner Garcia.
Judge, for the record, I just need a correction on item number 43. It's just a correction.
Go ahead.
RFQ number 2016, it should read -028-6565. The book has 026. It should read 028.
Okay. So with that correction, are there any comments on these non-pulled items that we will vote on momentarily?
I would like to make a comment on order number 2, which is the annual contract with the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. One of the things we talk about often is that in order to do county business, it takes a lot of people. And I'd like to recognize Tim Sexton, who is here today. He is the chair of the Children's Welfare Board and is my appointee to that. And part of what he does is working with CPS and trying to see how Dallas County can better provide services to kids in Dallas County. But the number of hours that Tim puts in to work with the different entities, to work with kids, is something that should be recognized periodically. So thank you, Tim. And just wanted to let him know that he's here to say, I want to see how all this fits in together. So thank you, Tim.
All right. Thank you. I agree. Thank you, Tim. Any other comments? Hearing none. I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion on court orders number 21 and 22, or do you want to do them separately?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so this is on 21 and 22. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? I abstain.
I'm abstaining too.
All right. Motion carries 3-0 with 2 abstentions, Garcia and Jenkins. Is there a motion? And we
I
can
move
do
court orders 46 through 49.
I'll second.
All right. And
Comment. I really want to thank purchasing. Last week, just grabbed all of this dadgum paperwork and pulled it up like it was something to do. Then we turned around and went through it, and all the heck there was the fact that they were replicated the dadgum bids. You had one dadgum bidder in there that probably produced about 700 pages. Okay? So when you get down to it, a lot of the stuff, you had maybe 50, 60 pages of contract. But you replicate it. And so, I know last week it was a big deal made as though, you forced this on us 2 weeks ago at the last minute. And when we sit down and spend all that time looking through it, it was just duplicate stuff.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm just apologizing for the fact that it made it look like you gave us all of this to read, and if you read it, it was 700 to 900 pages from one dadgum vendor. Is that correct? Or just my eyes fooled?
Well, we use a standard template because since they were all janitorial services contracts, we worked with the DA's office to develop the agreements. So the agreements were pretty much standard. And then, of course, with the proposals that were submitted, some of them had various responses in the proposal, but 2 of them were awarded to, we're executing with the same vendor on 2 of them.
Okay, and on most of them, it appeared though, when you got a chance to deal with them, they increased their wages to their employees.
That is correct, sir. We did an RFP process to address living wage as well as quality services. And so when we did a comparison, there is a $2 increase per hour on all contracts.
And it also appeared that when the county is closed on some of the vendors are now paying their employees when we have declared the county closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I pull these for a separate vote. I am pleased that employees, I consider anyone who works 40 hours a week at Dallas County to be a member of our team. The law in Texas allows for governmental entities to pick and choose members of their teams to which they want to pay benefits and call employees, and which members of their team they wish to not pay benefits and call contractors who still come here and answer to Dallas County employees who essentially supervise them through the day and tell them what to do. And so I was extremely concerned that because we do talk about the importance of families and poverty, fighting poverty, doing more for our communities, and yet we had these employees that some of them had worked here for a decade and were making minimum wage. So I am pleased that they're going to see a $2 increase. I'm not going to vote for this today because what I've said is we've got that study that shows that you need to make at least $10.25, a little more, even as a single person, to be able to pay for life's necessities. And that doesn't include people who have children or anyone to take care of. So we didn't get there, so I won't be able to vote for that. But I am pleased that we're seeing some move towards that. I think that will do a couple of things. We're still below, for instance, what Renaissance Tower pays its cleaning crew, where many of our employees are now as we fix up records building. In the private sector, there's a competition for renters. And so if the toilets are dirty or the trash is overflowing, you let that happen enough, people will sign a new lease with a new or a new building down the street. In the public sector, that's not true. We're going to be in our government buildings, and we know we do get frequent complaints from both the employees and the public about overflowing trash cans or problems. And so I hope that the experience in Dallas County will be a little bit more like it is in a private building, a little bit more cleanly, a better environment for the public and for our employees.
A lot of us share the same concerns that you have We are very concerned about who works in Dallas County, and there are some of us who are working very, very hard at making sure that there are no overflowing trash cans, that floors and carpets are vacuumed and cleaned, et cetera, et cetera. But I would also like to say, too, that are there any restrictions that we have, and I'd like to turn to our district attorney representative over here, are there any restrictions that we have in being able to raise salaries for contract laborers? What are our responsibilities there?
Well, if the question is, are there any restrictions on requiring someone to pay a prevailing or living wage, that question was actually posed by District Attorney Watkins and Judge Jenkins to the Attorney General in December of 2014, in which they specifically stated that they believed under the Texas Labor Code that it says, Judge Jenkins and I believe this legislation expressly authorizes Dallas County to solicit proposals that include payment of a higher minimum wage. And the Attorney General responded by opinion. The opinion was issued in December of 2014 in response to the request of June 2014, and clearly said that the provision cited, Section 620515 of the Labor Code, does not authorize the county to require a higher wage as a condition of the award of a contract. There was also a question about whether a living wage could be considered as a factor in the RFP process. And in fact, pricing to employees was considered as an RFP factor here, but that's different than saying we're going to require them to pay the living wage. The Attorney General said that it would be a factual determination that had to be made by the court, and the Attorney General doesn't make those type of factual determinations. However, the Attorney General did give guidance in saying that you would have to make sure that such a requirement would definitively and objectively relate to the quality of service provided under any particular contract in order for it to even be considered, and then alluded to other rulings in which it said that policy decisions, i.e. paying because it would be a societal good, would not meet that definition of a definitive and objective criteria that's directly related to the quality of the good or service. So the end result of that is the Attorney General most likely would say that that would not meet the test to just do it based on a societal cause. And I believe I previously quoted language from the Attorney General that summed it up and said in their sum that while it may be a laudable goal, it's not one that is allowed to be imposed under the procurement laws of Texas.
Precisely the reason I just commended purchasing for trying to do this. And if you look at the pricing, you were able to maintain the pricing at the same time accomplishing those goals that I enumerated. Is that correct? That's correct. Yeah, so, damn, I mean, you tied their hands and they still, they were able to do what they thought was the tenor of what is best, for this community. I won't say this court, this community.
So that in purchasing, you're approaching the latitude of being able to address the humanistic goals that we do have as a Commissioner's Court and as Dallas County.
And you point out something, this is not the first time this has happened. We saw it with vets across America on the security screening as well. If people understand that it's important to pay their employees, if they understand that it's important to provide, say, sick days to their employees so that people won't come to work with 101-degree fever and get everyone else sick, then they do that, and they do it at the same cost structure as when you don't make those negotiated demands. and they pay they don't, when you don't do that, it's like our old deal. There's no sick day, so people are coming sick, they're paying minimum wage, and you're getting what you're getting. I would point out that it's not, the private sector that are all around us in these downtown buildings are not paying a living wage because of their focus for the social good. They are paying a living wage because of their focus on cleanliness and keeping tenants in their buildings and recognizing that when they have unclean buildings and unsanitary and unkept-looking buildings, they lose tenants. So it's not just about our goal of paying a living wage. If we go with market, we're paying a living wage because our neighbors are not government, and they lose. We're not going to lose a court because the bathrooms are dirty for the jurors at the court. The court can't go anywhere. But Renaissance will lose an insurance company or a tenant if the bathrooms are dirty and unkept, or if there's, theft or those sort of problems.
Said it 2 or 3 times. Call the question.
All right. All those in favor of 46 through 49?
Thank you.
Aye. Okay, is everybody voted? And I vote no. And are there any abstentions? All right. Motion carries 4-1.
Move toward order 50. Should have been 2 weeks ago.
I believe 50's already been done.
No, you said 12 through 49, unless you just did something.
Well, we did through 53, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that's been
Okay, so
done.
then it's 54.
Now we're on 54. Now, Russ, can you say the name of the person so if they're here?
54. You got to move it.
Okay, hang on, I just need another name real fast.
You moved it?
Yeah, I moved it.
I believe it is Randy Smith. It should be in your
Second.
materials.
So there's a motion and a second. Will the bailiff please read the rules of decorum for our public speakers?
No.
No, this is for someone named Randy Smith if he's here. But go ahead and read the rules of decorum. We're
All
almost.
Commissioner Court attendees are hereby advised that this meeting is conducted in accordance with the provisions of Dallas County Code Section 74-71. Visitor and registered speakers are to observe order and decorum at all times. Personal, profane, or slanderous remarks are not appropriate and will not be allowed at any time during this meeting. Any and all applause be kept brief and observant of the time constraints. Disrupted visitors and/or registered speakers may be removed and are subject to the penalties provided in the state of Texas Penal Code Sections 38.13, 42.01, and 42.05. Registered individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and the maximum discussion on any one topic is limited to 30 minutes.
All right, and is Mr. Randy Smith or any representative of Mr. Randy Smith here to speak on? You are, sir. Are you Randy Smith? Yeah. Mr. Smith, please come forward. If you desire, you don't have to come forward if you desire to be heard. All right, Mr. Smith, you've heard our rules. Before you begin, Russ, do you believe, it seems to me there should be the 3-minute time limit. What do you think?
It's
What is
3
your-
minutes.
What is your, hang on one second, Commissioner, we'll hear any objections, but do we agree it's a 3-minute time limit on this?
This is a little different than a public speaker.
Okay.
This is basically providing notice and an opportunity to be heard in response to allegations that have been made. So, in my opinion, a fair time review of the court would not be limited, is not
Okay.
necessarily limited by the rules to the 3 minutes. That's within the discretion of the court.
That's fine. And I want to be absolutely fair to you. About how long do you think you have, or how long would you like to speak, sir?
Just a few minutes ago, I'd like to at least address my opinion and my concern.
Yes, sir. No, I understand. Do you have any idea of the time that you think you would
like a rebuttal, recusal to what they say.
Do you know how much time you would like to speak, sir?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, do you know how much time you would like to speak?
I would say 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. Could we set the clock for 5 minutes instead of 3 for him? All right, sir, and if you'll just state your name and address.
I know it.
We'll have a,
Thank you.
maybe if it works, there's a little red light, like a traffic light that will come on up here. And when you start speaking, it'll be green, and when you get down to about 30 seconds, it'll be yellow. When it gets to red, just finish your thought. Red means you're out of time, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Okay, go ahead and state your name.
First of all, I do admit that I did say some things on Facebook, but I really feel that was my personal opinion, and I was not representing the county or representing the spot of an election judge. I was stating an opinion, which I do realize I was wrong. And since then, I have deleted the Facebook account. And I'm asking that at least, that considering I got almost 20 years experience, and they always need election judges and workers, I'd request like some kind of suspension instead of just removal from office on some. At that time, I didn't know what I was saying would even institute.
Well, what did you say? So just be direct so the record will be clear.
I don't even remember all of it, honestly, so.
Okay, that's...
You're joking, right?
No, I'm serious. I don't remember everything, honestly.
Okay. Does anyone have the post that you could share, and just bring up here and share with the 5 members of the court?
We've got it right
It's
here
on
on the
your
deal.
briefing.
I don't have mine, okay.
It's on your
Should be
briefing.
the materials that were provided, along with his response. His written response.
It's there. Okay, you might I can read it.
Okay. Okay, I think, my computer doesn't work, sir, but I've been able to look on my colleague's computer, and I've seen what you posted. Please continue.
No, I want him to say what he said.
No, let's not even.
Well, no, Judge, if you want to air it, now, hell, I mean,
Okay. Go ahead, sir. It's your time, and I stopped your time for the questions we had for you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So I'll admit that was said, but sometimes people say things at the spur of the moment and later come to regret it. And that's basically what happened on this. I was wrong, but I have deleted the account, and I am aware now of what I did wrong. So I'm asking for some lenience or like a suspension. That's what I got to say.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I got a motion on the floor.
We have a motion and a second, and sir, I want to say that I do appreciate you apologizing for the comments.
Apologize for slavery.
Well,
Yeah, all right, now,
you need to understand how the process works. If the court order passes today, you will be taken off as an election judge,
In 2017.
Yes, I'm.
okay? And then to be resubmitted, it will have to come through the parties. Is that correct, Ms. Pippins-Poole?
Correct.
So it's not up to this court, it'll be up to the party, whichever party submitted your name, to resubmit it if they want you to work in the future. So you can go talk to them. But for today, if the court order passes, it'll be suspended.
all right. So all those any other comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Love is in the back. He will be able to explain to you what the vote means, just like Commissioner Cantrell explained. Thank you. Talk to him
All right.
3 times.
I know that we have just finished this section, and I would just like to make a comment. I was hoping Mr. Martin, I know that this has been a particularly eventful last couple of weeks, and we ended up with 4 different amendments to the agenda. And having gone through quite a bit of discussion about how we do business and how we create agendas and timelines and moving from every week meetings to every other week meetings, I would ask if there can be a way of organizing this so that, for example, in looking for this number 54, you had to pull out 40, which one of these amendments. So if there could be a way of labeling those so that they'd be clear.
That's a great suggestion, and I will work with staff and with the
One
clerk's
thing-
office to create versions on the agenda itself once we make the changes. So.
One thing that you can do, but I know if there's a way we can fix this and make it even work better, on your iPad agendas, there's a button there that it says you can update and you don't lose your notes. But the reality is, when the new agenda comes out, that the only way to get the new stuff on your iPad agenda is to delete the entire thing.
That is correct.
And then to reinstall the whole thing. So it would be great if that functionality button would work.
Did you sync it first?
Yeah.
And then do it?
But yes, but it still won't work. So if that could be worked on as well, so that
That your notes transfer over?
No, they're not transfer, Commissioner.
you have to,
And it comes to the, it won't let you?
won't
I've
let
synced it before and it comes to my...
You know, it
Not on
works
the iPad,
here,
it won't.
because it syncs here, but it doesn't sync in my iPad.
Okay.
so
So
that
I have to
would
come
be
to the
good.
office.
If we could do that.
Because we're looking at redoing this entire process, so.
Well, it does take a long time to download the agenda onto our iPads. That'd be a quicker way to do that.
Well, one of the reasons why is because it's 4,000 pages. This was
Well, no.
the last couple of months.
Well, even if you could download it on your computer, put it on a stick and plug it in, it'd download quicker. I mean, because then you could, if this doesn't have USB.
And one of the things we're looking at with the new system is going to Surface Pros. So if we go to the Surface Pro, you will be able to do that.
There you go. That's the
Okay,
quickest.
so there is a better way to do
Yes.
this. Thank you.
Have a Surface. We have to get everybody Surface.
Yeah.
You got a Surface Pro?
I mean,
That's why
I
I'm still
prefer to
doing
have
paper,
something
because if I
that's
can't
functional
see it
across
all-
device platform. Because of, if it's not functional across device platform, then that means that's just one more device people have to carry, for some of us, we don't even have, the county's not even charged for our iPads because we have our own, so to give us all a unique thing would be seems like kind of a waste of money, wouldn't it?
Well, I think the Surface Pro would actually, if you can switch other functions to your Surface Pro, actually that's more compatible than anything because it's just like having your desktop with you as opposed to carrying around.
How big is it?
It's the same size. That's it right there.
Okay. So it's a little bit bigger. but-
I prefer functionality. I mean, it's great if some people want to go to using a Surface Pro, but it's pretty obvious that Apple's won the tablet battle, so.
And I don't know that I would like to be in Hillary Clinton trouble either,
Right, okay, so,
So we'll take your suggestion.
I'm still using my notebook.
Each time we make changes to
I use this
the iPad version. so you'll
To label it.
version.
That would be appreciated. And then if there is going to be a discussion on a better way to move all this information so that we can have access to the orders plus the backup, that would be absolutely fantastic.
Commissioner, we're looking up to you. As the chair of IT, I'm looking forward for any recommendations.
I know it.
all right. So we have, any other comments on other matters? If not, we still have some public speakers. All right, and our first public speaker is Mr. Loris Phillips.
Hi, my name is Dolores Phillips. I did give you handouts. This document is now at the Supreme Court, originated from the United States District Court, number 315 CV 3933. Dr. Daniel, I see that you put it to the side. I'm humbly asking you to read that because this conspiracy was in the schools as well. So my concern is, Annabelle Jenkins, I Googled your name and saw that you was once an attorney, and I'm not at all surprised. And I wanted to know what would happen if you sent documents, not to just any court, but to the highest court of America and found out that they were botched. That wasn't the first time. September the 7th, I left City Council driving straight to Washington, 45 minutes of rest only to get there to see that my documents were botched. 139990, that case is in the Supreme Court, and that was the FBI FOIA case. That case was botched, documents removed. Documents that went to the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit in 11-10-766 and 12-11126, botched. My concern is that if you assault a person and you get away with it, can you assault a person a second and a third time and use the excuse, well, I got away with it the first time, so it doesn't matter if I keep being repetitive and re-victimizing a person for speaking of Dallas and Texas methodically committed criminal injustices. I want to ask you, Honorable Jenkins, what would be the consequences for someone in your court botching documents that were supposed to come to you? In this criminal conspiracy at DCCCD, I had a meeting with Ombudsman Betty Tilley to negotiate a grant. It was all about me speaking. It was retaliation because I was speaking of corruption, ongoing corruption. Green Oaks was a part of a continuation of this cover-up. Green Oaks was. When you had Corporal Cotton here last month to recognize Nami, Corporal Cotton was the arresting officer who took me to Green Oaks, who became angry. They unlawfully redacted certain scenes from the video down at DPD not to incriminate themselves. They just reopened the investigation into Hillary Clinton emails. If the FBI rightfully, lawfully, and justly investigate everybody that's connected to the event worked up to this criminal conspiracy, go back and retrieve my emails pertaining to the FBI file folders that was released when I was using computers at UNT Dallas, UTA, and DCCCD, they would know that it is a massive cover-up, and it's massive. It's huge. So I'm not afraid to endure the consequences that comes with being a minority and speaking of the repercussions. Nor am I afraid to endure what you got to endure from people that look like you and come from where you come from. It's a major, massive cover-up, and I'm the state boards assisting in the massive criminal cover-up.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Mr. Michael Wilson. Oh, here he is.
Good morning, Honor.
Good morning.
Commissioners, everyone is here, Homeland Security, other officers. On the record, Judge, I want to make a motion for an enlargement of time of 30 minutes.
Okay.
My name is Michael Wilson, and I would give you a home address, but I don't have one right now.
Yeah, Michael, I've heard your motion, but I'm overruling that. And let me explain to you why. We have rules that leave public speakers with, allow public speakers up to 3 minutes. The court can expand that time if they choose to. There are exceptions to that, and you may have seen a couple of them today. The public speaker who spoke before Dolores was responding to a court order, and our district attorney had indicated he should be given a little bit more time. But there's not a mechanism, absent a unanimous approval of the court, to extend time for our public speakers on matters that aren't before the court. Okay? So please state your name and address, Michael.
Michael Wilson, and I don't have an address right now to give you.
It's okay.
However, I am going to ask the court for unblocked reconsideration of the time limit and time enlargement, if I can ask maybe 10 additional minutes, just a little latitude, sir. Well, this is a matter that's involving domestic terrorism and forced defaults. And I've done.
Yeah. Well, let's stop his time for just a second. I've already overruled that, but in an effort to be completely fair, if there's a motion from any member of the court to expand this person's time, we'll hear that, but I don't hear any motion from anyone. Anyone? Okay. So under our rules, I'm the presiding officer, and if someone up here were to make a motion in a second, we would vote on expanding the limits. But they're not expanded, so when the time comes back on, you're in your 3 minutes, and just say whatever you'd like to tell us.
Before the time starts, I will.
It started. It started.
Okay, I sent a copy of the motion to Commissioner Garcia yesterday.
Okay.
I am here today, I am asking the court for intervention into a situation I have that's currently a complaint that's filed against the Dallas County Clerk. And the court has received service of that citation, and it was served upon the defendant. And I am asking the court on its own accord, on the motion, if they could implement an alternative resolution for this dispute. There were some complications with that I noticed in the original petition. However, I am giving notice to the district attorney that I am motion for dismiss that cause of action as a non-suit because there are other requirements under there's Civil Practice and Remedies Code if I'm going to file a case against a county official. I am going to file the case. There's a lot of controversy. I still have differences, and I still have excessive amount of property damages that I have sustained, and additional disabilities on top of disabilities that there's various provisions of the property code that addresses those issues. There are some other issues that I'm asking for to be the motion that I'm asking the court to hear or consider right now is that the motion is heard as expeditiously as possible. I know the election is next week, and the cause of action I brought before the court is against a county official, so he may or may not be here next week. I don't know how that works, but I'm sure that he is an elected official, so it's going to affect him too, and whatever the outcome of the election is. So I'm asking the court for a expedited hearing or ex parte consideration on the motion for alternative resolution for the dispute at this time.
Anything, is your opportunity to speak, sir?
Additionally, sir, there are, in the order for mediation, I want to request for a protective order because of the capacity of the people involved and the parties that are named or potentially to be called witnesses to refrain from any service or processes near and around the mediation site, sir, if it is granted.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And this court is without power to grant any of the relief that you are requesting, but thank you for your comments. And our last public speaker is Mr. William Hopkins.
Thank you.
You may go, sir. Thank you. Good morning, good morning, William.
My name is William Hopkins. Last month and month before last, y'all did a proclamation on breast cancer and infant deaths. Ms. Garcia read out some zip codes, but they left out 75212. I don't know if I had to ask Ms. Garcia who told her to take out 75212. I don't know if I'm supposed to ask her. I asked the DA, the assistant DA, Judge Jenkins. But somebody told her to take out 75212. And so Parkland can help cover up the infant deaths and the breast cancer in West Dallas. Everybody in West Dallas got infant deaths. I got, my niece, little baby died maybe 4 years ago, about 1 year old. Everybody got it. Somebody took it out, so y'all could cover up. Let me give you this. Here go the lawsuit. I'm finna show you what I'm talking about. That's the lawsuit where the city of Dallas and the state of Texas sued the RSR lead plant, and they moved the white people out of the Dallas Housing Authority, and they told the school board, the DISD, is there any kind of way we can move the white kids out of the schools? Amelia Earhart. The white kids are going to Amelia Earhart. So the state of Texas and the city of Dallas, that lawsuit you got right there, Judge Jenkins, went to the school board and told them, is there any kind of way we can move the white kids out of Amelia Earhart without nobody knowing? So the state of Texas and the city of Dallas moved them. They moved the white families so it wouldn't be home from the lead, that lawsuit I gave you. And then the Madrino family came back and asked them, was there any kind of way we can move the Hispanics without nobody knowing? So they moved the Hispanics to Little Mexico. They moved the families and the children so the children and the families wouldn't get hit home by the lead. Russell Bud, Fred Bowley and Bud Law Firm, Lisa Blue and Dorothy Bud came and they had John to bring us to the boys club and tell us don't tell nobody. And they gave a few people some money. And we're dying, Judge Jenkins. Sand Branch, y'all been talking about Sand Branch 20 years. The people over there, they don't even have water. You said y'all don't do water, y'all don't help with water, but you put a water fountain in a building over there. Y'all put a water fountain, put a sign, and put some films up of the water. So y'all do water, but it just, I guess the white people water. Blacks need water, y'all got a whole lot of excuses. But I'm here for that law enforcement survey. I'd like to see the survey, Judge Jenkins. Where is the survey at? Because if y'all arrest 60, 70,000 people, I don't see the money. I can't figure it out. Have you saw the survey? This law enforcement survey John did, that he did by himself? Cantrell, have you saw it? Cantrell, ask to see it.
We're not here to answer your questions. We're here to
Can
hear
you
your comments.
ask to see the survey, the law enforcement? Can you ask to see it? Are you scared? Everybody's so scared.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hopkins. This concludes our public speakers. We're now going to go to closed session in a moment to consider matters under Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code as previously posted. Any action as a result of the closed session will take place in a subsequent open session.
But
No action necessary as
I
per the
love
closed
them.
session. Court stands adjourned.
Good people, good preachers.